Hey, everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Diamond Discussion. I am your host, Demetrius Woods, and today we're going to discuss the latest in the college softball rankings, of course, and we'll also get into how to spot a D1 athlete, as well as talk about some on the field advice. So, without further ado, let's get started. All right, guys, welcome once again to the show. Welcome to episode number 20. Believe it or not, thank you always for your continued support and just for tuning in on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Audible, all the platforms that we have. Just again, floored by the support and listeners throughout each and every single week. If you didn't catch last week's episode with my little brother, you missed a treat, but it's okay. Head over to Spotify or what have you to go check it out. But without further ado, let's get this one started. And I want to start just with a few takeaways from being a dad to a daughter who's starting to learn how to, understand sports, some of the rules, starting to play them a little bit, take some interest. And hopefully you can apply this to not only your game, but also just youth sports in general. I think it's important. And so I could be talking to parents and coaches, but also to younger players as well. And, one of the things that I've learned at the top of that list is to teach the game creatively. And it's not just our game. It's softball. It's basketball for her. It's gymnastics even. We've talked about a lot of different games, and she's got an opportunity to see a lot of different sports and live sporting events as well. And I say teach creatively, meaning that she is such a sponge when it comes to learning new stuff. And so I try to figure out different ways to share new games with her, whether it be just the traditional sports that we all know it to be, or just even in things that are behind, like cornholes or ping pong, things like that people don't play as much of. So I teach the games creatively with her. I also understand, this is kind of a big one, understand when she's done for the day. And what I mean by that is that sometimes 4-year-olds, like, they're on to the next thing so quickly to where when she's done hitting off the tee, like, that's it, like, we're done, like, she's checked out. And so you don't just continue to push and push and push. Like, I let her be, and if she's done, cool. I could be mid lesson or mid conversation or mid teaching moment or whatever. That's okay. Like, if she's ready to hang it up, I'm cool. I'm hands off. We're backing off, and we're heading inside to grab a drink of water or something like that. So I think that's important to understand that piece of it. And then obviously the elephant in the room, or the obvious, would be let them have fun, right? Like, it's youth sports, and I feel like that's the biggest thing that I want you all, especially my older listeners who may be still a part of the game in some capacity, is that you just continue to have fun with the game, whether you're a parent, you're coaching it, or you're playing it. The FUN part of it is a big piece, and we don't ever want to veer away from that. And if you do find yourself doing that in a single moment, it's good to have some of those checks and balances of people around you who will help kind of bring you back, reel it back in, and or otherwise, you got to do that yourself too. So I think that's important. That's just a one little takeaway that I have for you guys about that. Just again, something that I've learned with my daughter, and I hope to be able to continue to apply that to the players that I coach as well each and every day. And I hope they know that too. Is that I want us to have fun, and we try to do that a lot. As I'm recording this show, we had practice a few hours prior, and the girls convinced me that they needed Dairy Queen at the end of practice. Again, I'm such a sucker. I got to stop falling for that. But I let them guess a number between 1 and 100, and all the players, all 10 players that were there at practice, they got a chance to guess. I think they got the number right after like 4 or 5 guesses. It's ridiculous. So I need to do better with that. But anyway, all that to be said, we have fun. We grind at practice, obviously, but also try to mix in a little bit of fun. And so we made a little Dairy Queen run, and everybody got an opportunity to share 2 interesting facts about themselves. And then I gave them free reign to ask me any question under the sun, and it didn't go sideways, actually. So I was grateful for that. But anyway, let's jump into the college softball update from this past weekend, because y'all, craziness happened. Just some top 10 matchups took place, and I'm going to talk about 3 specific top 10 matchups right off the bat. One of those being, briefly, is the Tennessee Georgia matchup. Tennessee takes the series from Georgia in dramatic fashion. Man, y'all, I don't even remember her name right this second, but either way, if forgive me, but the pitcher for Tennessee, she's throwing like low to mid 70s, I think, or something crazy like that. It feels like, and I want to see her pitch in person. I don't know when I'm going to get to see that. I'm trying to figure out how I can sneak over to Auburn, Alabama, and catch some of the SEC tournament, which in case I would see the Tennessee pitching staff at that point. But Tennessee, Georgia, man, what a series that was, and that was one of many great series. Is that a word? I don't know. That was one of many great ones throughout the week. Another big one, the Texas Oklahoma. Woo boy. The series was jam packed with amazing softball, not necessarily a high scoring affair at all through each of the games. Oklahoma took game one. We kind of expected it going into the series. Honestly, if I was a betting man, I genuinely would have expected Oklahoma to sweep the series because of just it's Oklahoma, right? They've carried that torch for so long, and I don't think they've lost a Big 12 series since like 2011. I think the stats showed, right? So like 13, 14 years ago, was the last time they've lost a conference series, which is wild. But Texas takes game two in dramatic fashion as well. I got an opportunity to watch the last 2 to 3 innings of that game on television. And of course, if you saw game two, you saw how it ended with a stroke, all right, off the wall by Oklahoma, and runner tries to score from first base, and she gets gunned down at the plate. The ball carries the Texas catcher down the third base line just a touch. Actually, not just a touch. It was a solid, like, it felt like about 8 to 10 feet down the line, and the tag was made well before home plate. Of course, obstruction was looked at, and it was something that was upheld, obviously, because the ball carried the catcher down that way. And I'm so glad that call was made the right way by the umpiring crew. I feel like the umpires don't always get enough credit for getting it right when they do, but I felt like they got it right in the moment, and they did review it, and they stood on the call that was made on the field, and I thought that was the right call that to be made. And so obstruction is always one of those blurred lines, especially in high school and travel ball. We don't have the luxury of replay. Therefore, you gotta whatever happens is what happens, and usually that's what stands, unless you gracious enough for the other umpire to be able to have seen something a little bit different. But that was a fun series to watch. Again, like I said, I watched the back end of game two, and then I watched the highlights of game three, where Texas, went up 2-1 in the fourth. And here's the thing, man, with big bad Oklahoma, to go up by a run like that, and you still got to get 9 outs against them. Again, I'm still betting on Oklahoma, and Texas was like, horns up, baby, because we're shutting that thing down. So no Boomer Sooner this past weekend, and I was incredibly impressed with what Texas was able to pull off. Obviously, OU's going to bounce back, no doubt. Like I don't even know who OU plays next, but I feel bad for whoever it's going to be, because they're probably going to sweep them, or it's going to be they're always going to be tough. So Oklahoma, they'll bounce back. Patty Gasso, she's I don't know her record after losses, but it's pretty stellar. So anyway, all that to say, what a series that was, and I'm going to talk about Texas again here in a second when it comes to the rankings. The third series that I got an opportunity to watch, I got to watch two of these games in person down in Gainesville, Florida. LSU took a road trip to Florida. As many of you know, I'm a big-time LSU fan. Last week I was down in Orlando, Florida, with my little brother on spring break, as well as my mom, my daughter, and my wife, and had an amazing trip in Orlando. And then on the way back up, we stopped by Gainesville as if it was like a gas station and camped out there for about 36 hours. to take on a little bit of softball action. LSU dropped game one of the series late. Florida was able to, man, Blair, I can't remember her first name, but Walsh is her last name. Bats in the 5-hole for Florida, and game was tied 1-1, bottom six, I believe. And Walsh just crazy at bat by her, and I felt like Sydney Berzon really grinded out, the at bat, and she left a changeup, kind of over the heart of the plate late in the at bat, and Walsh just kind of, hooked it over the left field wall for a 3-run bomb. LSU scored a cosmetic run to make it 4-2, and then game two was also a great one. LSU battled back, man. Shout out to Raylene Gutierrez. Shout out to just a lot of the LSU players. You guys know I'm a big LSU fan, so I'm bragging on my girls for this dub because it was outstanding. They went down by a run in the bottom of the sixth. Almost felt like hope had been lost again. And the LSU top of the order came through and made some noise there to get the job done. Bragging also on the bottom half of the LSU lineup. Shout out to Mackenzie O'Rudity, and Maddox McKee, Macy Bajeron, man. All just shout out to LSU. Period, man. Hey, what am I talking about? I know we lost the series. That's where I'm going with this. We lost the series. LSU won game two in extra innings. We lost game three in extra innings. It was a heartbreaking loss. We went up 5-1 in the fifth inning, man, and gave up 5 unanswered runs to lose in 8. But we'll bounce back, and I'm excited for the rest of the season. I guess we got what, like 3 or 4 SEC series is left. I keep saying series. I don't know if that was a word or not, but either way, we got a few SEC series left. Of course, we got 2 matchups with Louisiana Lafayette. We got a full series with Liberty, which they won't be a slouch at the very end of the season to wrap up the last homestand in Baton Rouge before SEC tournament takes place in I think it's May 7th through the 11th. So things are coming up fast, guys. The season is rolling on. We only got a couple of weeks left of regular season action. So again, if you're not watching, you need to tune in because you're missing out on some amazing softball, some amazing women, man, who are just advancing the sport on so many levels. Just women in sports right now is just at an all-time high, and I feel like it's doing nothing but growing at a very high clip. And I couldn't be more proud of these ladies who are elevating the game of softball, basketball, you name it, whatever it may be. Shout out to Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Paige Beckers, everybody in the basketball world as well, collegiately speaking. Just I shouldn't be even naming people because I'm leaving amazing people out as well. But shout out to all the ladies, man, all the women out there doing their thing, making it happen on a big time level. But let's get into these rankings because the rankings came out on Tuesday, and there was a little bit of buzz around the rankings. D1 softball had theirs, which is what I'm going to go by today, but ESPN had theirs too, and there was a stark contrast, honestly, in the D1 softball rankings versus what ESPN had. And but both polls had Texas leaping Oklahoma. Here's the reality on that front. If you get beat by a team in the series, it's hard for me to say that they shouldn't jump you. I just that's what I got to say on that. Texas lost to LSU early in the season. Of course, I got to mention that one. They had another loss on their record before that. But the thing is, man, they took 2 out of 3 to Oklahoma, and it's late in the season. I think that would be my argument for Texas, is that you took 2 of 3 from Oklahoma late in the season. Now, you were at home in front of your crowd. They were rocking, right? It was great atmosphere. But a late season win to me weighs more than an early season win because both teams are starting to fine tune what they're doing, and you're seeing each other in what I would call mid-season form. So Texas, I thought they deserved the leap over Oklahoma on that front. Duke, I felt like they should have been number two, not number two, excuse me, at least number three, and they're number five right now, and I feel like that's a little low for them. I don't feel I know they're in the ACC, and the ACC is not maybe one of the stronger conferences as we stand right now, but Duke has given us every reason to believe that they are serious, and they're still in top five, which is great, obviously. But I think they should be number three. But either way, it's Texas, Oklahoma. No slight to Stanford by saying that about Duke, but we got Texas, Oklahoma, Stanford, Oklahoma State, and then Duke rounding out the top five. And then you've got kind of like just a stacked SEC deck right now. They're just kind of beating up on each other really because you got Tennessee at 6, Florida who just beat LSU at 7, well deserved for them. LSU at number 8, and then you got Georgia at number 9 again, who just dropped to Tennessee. So I felt like that was accurate, where you got Tennessee and Florida at 6 and 7 respectively, who just beat Georgia and LSU, at 8 and 9. So and then Washington rounding out the top 10, who they're flying under the radar as well out there in on the West Coast. So again, it's interesting. And I actually, I don't even want to fail to mention Arkansas because they are clicking right now at the right time. They're number 11 ranked on the D1 softball poll too. So just a lot of good teams at the top, but also some amazing teams that have kind of entered the top 25 ranking. Speaking of Arizona, I believe Northwestern just entered as well, right? I don't think they were ranked prior to this, so they're number 22. Oregon, the Oregon Ducks are sitting at number 25. Uh, the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, man, they're always just right there. They're always kind of sort of at the bottom of the top 25 list, but they're always just that team that you don't want to face late in the season. Now, I know LSU gets the opportunity to face them as iron sharpens iron, but I'm hoping that I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm not about dodging anybody, but I'm low key hoping that Louisiana is not in LSU's regional this year. I'll just say that. That's what I'm saying because I don't want to see them. But anyway, all that to be said, that's what the rankings look like right now, guys. Anything can happen over the next couple of weeks. Of course, you got conference tournaments taking place early to mid-May. That's really going to shake things up before the final rankings happen going into the regionals, and we get this thing cranked off with basically the top 64 teams in this tournament. So I am excited. I'm not rushing at all to the tournament time because there's a lot to happen between now and then. But we got some good ball going on. We got some good ball to be played. I am also very, very pumped, though, for the Women's College World Series because I get an opportunity to go out there with my travel softball team, Elite Diamonds, to catch games 1 and 2 of the Women's College World Series finals, whoever that may be. So recent history, that's been the Oklahoma University Invitational, but we'll see what it looks like this year. But I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to jump back in here with a quick PSA to everybody, a pet peeve of mine. I'm also going to discuss what I feel like helps us identify D1 athletes at an early age. So I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. So I'm jumping in right away with a quick PSA for you, and this is something that it blows me away sometimes why players don't do it, especially at a young age, and it freaks me out even when I see people at the 18U level who don't. But here's the thing, guys: wear that mask, please. Please wear that mask. Pitchers, even corner infielders, if you're gonna crash the corners and you're gonna be 40 feet away potentially from that batter, wear that face mask. It's important to protect those teeth, the nose, the face. Just this area right here is so important to just life beyond softball even. So wear that face mask, throw it on please, and make sure that you give yourself an opportunity to protect your body at all costs, because this game, as great as it is, it can be a dangerous game at times as well when batters get a hold of one, man, coming down that hot corner, or even right back to the pitcher. it can be costly and not a great way. So again, wear that face mask and be safe out there while you're out there grinding and taking part of the game. I'm also going to share a pet peeve of mine real quick, and this is one that just came up this past week. So April's always weird for probably most travel ball programs, at least in the South. Well, actually, all over probably. But either way, it's weird for us specifically because this is the time where all of our girls are going to prom, and they've potentially got some, end of year projects or things with various organizations that are school related, things like that nature, right? Or they've got like county championships with track, or soccer playoffs are coming up. Whatever the case may be, there's a lot of things going on outside of travel softball, which means that sometimes our numbers on a few weekends may be slim. And so, like specifically for this weekend, we've got 15 players on the roster, but there was at one point it felt like we were only going to have like 8 players available. So we were either going to cancel and just play in a couple of weeks, or we were going to maybe pick up a couple of players off of our other team, or maybe even pick up outside the organization. Okay, but the pet peeve is because and again, this became a pet peeve a long time ago, but it just resurfaced this week because I found myself in a situation, right, where I was looking for us to have a PO or pitcher only to add to the roster for this weekend, just so that we could have that extra layer for our pitching staff. And again, I genuinely do not like picking up outside of the organization. Like I really, I hate it. I hate it actually. So that's why I'm like, okay, unless we really need something like somebody to come hang out with us, pick up, play a couple of innings, like I'm not doing that. But anyway, I've only got 2 of my pitchers available this weekend. And from a stamina standpoint, I just want to be able to make sure that, they're not overworked. And so we have that third option as well. Right. So, but the pet peeve came in because I talked to a potential player through another former player of mine. Right. And the former player of mine was like, hey, she's down. Her dad's down potentially. But her current travel ball coach said no. And I'm like, excuse me, what? Her travel ball coach said no. Are you kidding me? And again, if you are a travel ball coach and this is you, sorry, not sorry. I don't care if I'm stepping on your toes or not, because I absolutely cannot stand when travel ball coaches or even school ball coaches act as if they own the time of their players during their off weekends. That is insane to me, right? If one of my players, it cracks me up even when some, because I've had it in the past where players are like, hey, do you mind if I go pick up, when we're not playing? I'm like, what kind of question is that? Like, yeah, please do. Like, it's like players asking me, can I go pee in the middle of the game? Like, yes, please go excuse yourself. You don't have to ask me to go use the bathroom. Like, handle your business and come back, right? But I'm like, for players to feel like they've got to ask their travel ball coaches, can I go play? Can I go get more reps in this weekend while we're not playing? That is absolutely absurd. Okay. And that burns me up, man. And I could care less if with the, fine. Like we can't use her this weekend, so to speak, because she's not available for us. Like that's not why it's pet peeve. It's just a simple fact that how can somebody in their right mind feel okay with saying, hey, you can't go do this or that, right? Like what if she wanted to go play some pickup basketball with her cousins? She can't do that because there's risk in that too, right? So again, I'm passionate about that one because at the end of the day, we as coaches do not own our players. Okay. And I'm just going to say this, players, you should not feel like you got to ask permission from your travel ball coach to go do something else. If you want to go do a freaking triathlon because that's what you want to do in your off weekend, then by all means go do it. Or if you want to go pitch for another team, or go hang out and get some extra reps, then go do it. Right? If you are committed to that team and the time that you have with that team is important, but if you're off, then go do other things. Now, again, if you're playing and your team is already playing, or you've got practice or a team outing or something of that nature already planned with your current team, then of course it would make no sense for me to suggest that you should miss that, to go play somewhere else. Like that makes no sense. We shouldn't do that, right? We should commit to our people first. But if you want to go do other things or what have you, then I say go for it. But anyway, that's just a pet peeve of mine. I don't have a lot of them, but that's one that just like I said, it resurfaced this week in my brain. I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely one that I'm gonna have a conversation with everybody about on the show. So anyway, I digress on that front. Let's talk about how to find out if you can play at the D1 softball level. And there's just a couple of triggers that I feel like are important to note if you're on that level, like if you're able to play at that level or you're on that track. And one of them I say is kind of unfair, uh, because it has to do with just your physical development. And if you look at most Division One softball players right now, a lot of them were physically developed at a younger age. Like they almost look 17, 18 years old in a 14U body, right? And that's tough because that means that everybody isn't going to have the same opportunity at an earlier age. And I think about, my favorite LSU Tiger, Taylor Pleasance, who I had on the show a couple of months ago. Like she, I believe she committed or at least did her first visit at like 14 or 15, and then committed not long after that to LSU. And she was also, top on her list was Oklahoma and Texas A&M, right? So those are three top 25 schools right there as we speak that were recruiting her as freshman, sophomore, eighth grade even, right? And that means that you have to be solid at that age for you to be on that level to play at a high Division One level. Now, not to say that you can't be a late bloomer. You can be a junior and possibly even a senior, right? It's a lot tougher though to be able to do that. The other thing I feel is important to be able to know on if you're on that level or not is your true dominance of the game. Like, are you actually dominating the game right now where you are? Now, again, I'm not talking about dominating the game where you're, 15 years old playing 10U or something like that. Like, you've got good, solid competition with the people around you. Are you, if you're a pitcher, are you striking people out? Are you producing weak contact? Are you dropping bombs at the plate? Are you beating out, what some would deem routine ground balls? Like, do you have that kind of speed? Do you have a cannon of an arm from shortstop or the outfield? You don't have to have all of those, but do you have something that stands out well above and beyond not only just your teammates but your opposition, right? Like those are signs. You can go to the ball field and say, okay, yep, she could go play at the next level on a high D1 level because she fully stands out beyond everybody around her just a little bit more, right? She's batting 400, 500, on base percentage north of 6. You know what I mean? Just those types of things that are just important, right? The other one I think is vital is the academics. Okay, here's the bottom line: you can't not show up, in the classroom and then expect to be able to play really at any level, but definitely at the Division One level too, where they there's no room for error with that. And again, I can say that across the board, regardless of the level. So that's really, I guess that doesn't necessarily pertain just to D1. That's just playing collegiate ball in general, where you got to handle your business in the classroom and you got to be able to, have that discipline to juggle both, whether it's, in high school or middle school or travel ball or, any other club sports that you may be playing outside of softball too. Like you got to be able to juggle everything and be multidimensional on that front. So I feel like the academics is a big one on that case. And I think just one thing that you can do personally, if you're not sure, if you're like, hey, I've got the body build for it, I've got the work ethic, I am in some capacity dominating in the sport. I'm putting in the work. I'm doing all the things to be able to get to the next level and potentially play a high Division One level. So at that point, or even if you're not at that point yet, I would say go to some Division One softball games, and if you can't get to those, go to D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, something, and just to see where you compare. right? And there's a fine line with that because on I think season one of the show, I talked about the dangers of comparing yourself to other people, and I still stand on that. Obviously, but I think it's important to make sure that when it comes to comparing yourself to somebody else in this sense, right? You're understanding, okay, for example, I just went to LSU Florida 2 softball games. You're understanding what is it going to take for me to get to that level? Like, what do I need to be doing in terms of production to be able to not only make the team, but to be able to get ample playing time? How do I have a starting position on a high level Division One team? Right. So if I'm looking at LSU, I'm looking at Sierra Briggs, I'm looking at Allie Newland, I'm looking at Taylor Pleasance, I'm looking at Raylene Gutierrez, and I'm going, okay, those are the top 4 batters right now in that lineup. How do I compare to them today? And then what do I need to do to get to that level? Right? Guys, I implore you to go ask those ladies at those Division One softball games. Like if they come over for autographs, they make time for that for you. Don't just get them to sign a T-shirt or a ball or a game program. Have a question for them, right? Ask them their advice of whatever. I talked to Mackenzie Rudity after game two, I believe, at LSU, and I asked her advice of her just how she is able to stay back on balls that are, maybe on the outer half of the plate, right? And she talked specifically with 2 strikes because there was a moment in the game where she popped up. I think her second or third at bat in the game, then her fourth at bat. She was late in the count. It was a 2-2 count, maybe even full at that. No, it wasn't full. It was 2-2 count, and she's a lefty batter, and she drove the ball down the left field line, opposite field, on a 2-2 count. And she talked about how she gets in her stance right there, and she doesn't load anymore, right? So that's kind of what her 2-strike approach is. And so she won't have a load at all. She's already in her loaded position, and she keeps her eyes still, right? Her head is still, chin down, hands are ready to go, and she's willing to take whatever pitch she can get in that moment. But my point is that was a quick 35, 45-second conversation that I had with her, and I guarantee you there's ample players out there like Mackenzie who would be willing to say, hey, here's what I know, here's what's working for me. Maybe you can apply it to your game and work for you. So again, don't be afraid, man, to go out and ask some of these young ladies what they're doing, and go just watch the game, watch the pace of the game, and again, see what you need to do to be able to improve to get on that level, or maybe you're already there. So again, that's what I would say on that front, guys, as far as finding out if you're on the D1 level yet or en route to it, and whatnot. But again, if you're not, that's okay, because the reality is it's not D1 or bust. There are so many colleges out there who will take you on, and they will say, hey, here's some scholarship money, here's some merit academic money to come be a part of our program. Here's some NIL money, even potentially with different businesses and whatnot that they may have partnerships with to be a part of what we're doing. So I'm not saying obviously it's D1 or bust, because it's definitely not. But at the end of the day, if you want to know how you compare to the best at the collegiate level, then go watch them play, turn the TV on, tune into the game as much as you possibly can, just to see what you can do on that front. So we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to jump back in with our open book segment, and I'll wrap us up with our thought you should know moment. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to the show one last time. So we're going to jump right here into the open book segment. These are questions, as always, directly from you guys. So please feel free, as always, to DM us on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you may find us, TikTok, whatever, and ask your questions. And hopefully I can put it on the show for you. So the first one here is from Logan M. And she says, or he or she says, what do you value more as a coach, great offense or great defense? And Logan, I think this is an incredible question, because I think coaches would have different answers. And so I am going to flat out say I value great defense over great offense. Here's why. If I've got a great defense and a good offense, then I feel like I'm confident enough in my players. I feel like I'm also confident enough in my strategic ability as a coach to be able to scratch across a few runs with a decent to good offense. Okay. Therefore, if I have a decent to good offense aligned with a great defense, then I know that that means I'm going to probably hold you to no runs, 1 or 2 runs, right? Between my pitching staff and the abilities of our fielders behind them, my catcher being able to, keep runners at bay if they do get on, the IQ of the players, the whole nine, right? That's what I would deem a great defense, a complete 1 through 9 package on the field, right? So what that does is that to me, that puts pressure on your offense. And that also puts a little bit indirectly, a little bit of pressure on your defense, but it puts pressure on your offense because now you feel like you cannot score. It's like even if you get a runner on base, you may get that leadoff runner on, you may get first and second with 1 out or 2 runners on with an out, right? And there's no guarantee that you can score because my pitcher may be good enough to blow it by you. My defense is good enough to roll up a double play and get out of the inning, right? There's a lot of things that come with great defense that can truly stifle any type of run that a solid offense may be able to provide. So that's why I would say that on that front. If you look at the flip side of that, though, and again, I could probably argue both cases, but a great offense and a good defense. Here's the thing. Yes, a great offense is awesome, and that means that you can probably put up 6, 7, 8 runs a game, which is again that's great. But if your defense is just good or solid or decent or average or whatever, then that means that you're going to relinquish some runs, right? And that means that you probably won't hold teams to just 2 runs. You're probably going to give up 4 and 5 runs a game because there's going to be a couple of boots here and there. There's going to be, maybe a couple of extra base hits given up by your pitching staff. You're going to hit a batter or two, right? There's going to be something potentially that adds to the game where your pitcher may have to get 4 outs or 5 outs even in an inning versus just 3, right? And so what that means is that there's a compound effect that comes with that because hitting is contagious, right? As soon as that one batter gets on because of a boot, maybe she steals a bag, that next batter finds a way on, and now all of a sudden you've got multiple people on base with nobody out, and it's like, oh crap, we gotta put a band-aid on this pretty quickly, or things are gonna get out of hand. And again, you're confident because you can score just as they can, but I still feel like I would lean on having a great defense if I had to choose versus a great offense. So again, Logan, awesome question on your part. Thank you for asking that one, and I hope that makes sense to some others who may be listening in. The second one here is from Rhea W. And Rhea asks, what's one thing you talk about a lot when it comes to practicing the game? And as I think about this one, without saying the obvious, like, of course, tee work is important as a hitter. Making sure that you're working on your game defensively as well. It goes without saying, as pitchers, you need to be throwing bullpens on a regular basis and things of that nature, keeping your body in shape, all of that. But one thing that I feel like is important that kind of flies under the radar across softball and baseball in general is the importance of long tossing. And I may have harped on this before, but long toss progressions are great in my opinion because really it expands just the strength of the arm, and it helps you better understand your arm slot. It helps you understand what your limitations may be. How much do I need to get my legs involved to be able to throw the ball 90 feet, 120 feet, 150 feet even, right? For outfielders, can you throw the ball from the warning track to second base? Hopefully you can. Can you throw the ball from there to third? Can you get it to home? Can you get it to the mound on a one hopper, right? So how much truly can you do, right? And so long tossing is great, and it's not just for outfielders. I think the infielders need to be long tossing, pitching staff, the catching core, everybody across the whole squad should be long tossing, and just strengthening that arm and making sure that you're able to do more than just throw the ball maybe 60 feet, 30 feet here and there, that kind of thing. So that's one that I think it's important for us to be practicing, and I do implore my girls to do that on a regular basis. We actually did it earlier this week in practice, and pretty much right at the onset of practice, we spent about 20 minutes just long tossing, and that was us just going through a progression of of course you got a partner and you're going 30, 60, 90, 120, and I think we backed it up to even 135, and then we did 120, 90, 60, 30, all the way back in, and we took about 7 to 10 tosses at each of those increments, and got about 70, 80 throws in, and we were good to go, right? But again, that's forcing them to get their legs involved, get that core involved, and really, get on top of the ball as well. Sometimes it turned into rainbows as they got out to about 135 feet, or maybe solid little one hoppers in there. But you really learn, like, okay, where's my ceiling, and then how can I get in the lab and expand that, right? Because as I mentioned on the last segment there about finding out if you can play the D1 level or play the collegiate level in general, like girls on the D1 level and guys on the D1 level, they can long toss with the best of them. And I've watched people long toss from foul pole to foul pole, right, in college. And, they're doing it with relative ease because their arms are strong enough to be able to handle that. So again, not saying that you got to be that, but again, I think you need to be close to it to be able to have the proper arm strength that you need. So that would be my answer to that. The third question here and last one is from Rod H, and Rod asks, "Is it true?" I know Rod very well, so he's being probably a little bit facetious here because he already knows my answer. But he says here, "Is it true that baseball and softball swings are totally different?" And the answer is a resounding heck no. They are not totally different. Actually, they're spitting images of each other, in my opinion, because if you think about what has to happen from start to finish throughout a swing in softball, and honestly, I think it's ludicrous to even think that they're different. If you just look at the game, you look at the bat path of the batters on softball and baseball, they're the same, right? You got to load, you got to coil up, you got to get the point of contact, like all of the things that have to happen for you to be able to hit the ball on a line, on the ground, have the launch angle to get it over the fence. All of those things have to happen virtually the same way, right? So no, the swings are not different, and I will be very brief on that one because I'll get too passionate about that, and we'll be here forever. So no, they are not different. They are the exact same, and I would challenge anybody to convince me differently. And if you can, I would be willing to listen because I am all about learning more, learning new things. So if you do feel like there's something different about the baseball and softball swing, I would love to hear about it. So that is the last open book segment question. I am going to wrap up with a thought you should know moment, and this one comes from what I would call a dear friend of mine, Taylor Pleasance, off of the LSU softball team. And one thing that she said to me, as I talked to her after a post game conversation briefly last week, and after they beat Florida, or actually no, it was after they lost to Florida in Game 1. And she talked about just the simple fact of making adjustments as soon as possible. And what I took away from her just saying that is making adjustments that can be pre at bat, mid at bat, post at bat, defensively. That can be between innings, right? In the middle of an inning, whatever the case may be. And when I think about that for us all as coaches and players, making adjustments is a constant part of the game, right? Like we don't really get a halftime like basketball and football, right? We have to be able to make adjustments more on the fly. Like we don't get that. Our only talking conversation is mound visits and the minute or so that we get in between every single inning, right? Other than that, it's on the fly adjustments that we have to make. And honestly, the team who can make the most adjustments the quickest and just the most efficiently or in an efficient way is the team that usually comes out on top. And so that would be my thought you should know moment for you guys today is that as your game progresses and as you find yourself in game situations, be willing to make those early adjustments at the plate, mid at bat, pre at bat, whatever, take advantage of the opportunities on deck or in the hole, so that again you can be able to take your at bat and have a great productive one right off the rip. So, and again, on a defensive standpoint, that it goes without saying that, being able to read batters, any tells that may be giving you, like, take advantage of those and exploit them at all costs to be able to have that advantage on defense as well. So that is my thought you should know moment, guys, and that effectively wraps up this show. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to wrap this thing up as we always do. Please let everything you do be done in love, because at the end of the day, that is absolutely, positively, 100% what makes the world go round. Guys, I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you so much for being willing to listen to my voice. I know I get tired of it sometimes. Hopefully, you do not. But I'm always open to your feedback. So please give us a rating, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 star, whatever it may be on Spotify. Please do the same. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Of course, we plug in on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok with all of the clips. But that is just a very small smidgen of the entire show. So if you really want to hear the entire show, and you've gotten to this point in the show, then that means you've listened to the entire one. So again, as always, thank you guys once again. I have rambled long enough. Have a blessed day, and go crush it. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week.